When the Dungeons & Dragons animated series ended in the fall of 1986, the storyline had been left unresolved. However, series writer Michael Reeves had been commissioned to write a script which provided a resolution to the story. Unfortunately, that script was never storyboarded, never produced. That is, until now. In response to millions of requests from Dungeons & Dragons fans, BCI Eclipse is proud to present the original Michael Reeves script performed in a radio show format, featuring voice actress Katie Lee recreating her original role of Sheila. Close your eyes. Transport yourself back into the realm with Hank, Diana, Eric, Sheila, Presto, Bobby, Uni, and the Evil Venger as we present the final chapter in the Dungeons & Dragons story, Requiem.
Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen Fan Film Reviews. I am Sid Partu, joining me today is...
The real Manos.
And today, Manos has chosen what we're reviewing, and this is a bit of an interesting little fan project. So Manos, why don't you explain what we're talking about today?
Well, once upon a time, there was this TV show through Marvel and Sunbow, broadcast on CBS, based on the Dungeons & Dragons TV series. Well, it was the Dungeons & Dragons TV series. Based on the game, it was kind of like a whole new creation for it. And it never got an ending, which is honestly pretty typical. A lot of shows, back in this is like 1990, 1989 or something like that. I mean, rarely shows like this got endings. But it had such a rabid fan base, and fans and former creators got together and put together this kind of radio play with art, combined with the creator's script for a last episode. So essentially, this is Dungeons & Dragons Season 3, Episode 7, Requiem, an unproduced series finale.
Yeah, it's really interesting, these kind of like fan projects that can, that go from the official source material and stuff. So like at the beginning of this, they mentioned he was commissioned to write a script, but it was never produced or storyboarded, and so this is that script. So that was incredibly interesting. Now, you'll have to forgive me for asking, because I was unsure of this based on the video.
Yes.
The video we watched, was that the official release of it, or is that someone else releasing the audio combined with some images?
I am actually unclear on that. If it's an official comic produced, combined with the audiovisual episode. Let's see. No, this is a fan-made comic.
Oh, interesting.
So
someone else took the script and made a fan-made comic.
Right.
And put it to the audio. And someone else took the fan-made comic and put it to the audio and posted it to YouTube.
Yeah. And that's pretty funny. Yeah, and there's even original voice actors working on this, which is pretty amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, it's neat to see all the momentum that can get behind these fan things and the different ways in which they can be combined. So that is kind of cool. So all that being said, I must admit I was not really into this one.
Yeah.
With these fan projects, I'm kind of impressed by all of them, even when I think they are outright bad. I don't think this is outright bad, but still. I'm always kind of impressed by him to one degree or another. I always kind of admire the passion, if nothing else. This one just felt really, really off to me for several reasons. You know, we talk about this is an audio drama based upon the script for an unfinished episode, right?
Right.
And funny enough, that really shows. I feel like they really just took the script and you know, altered a couple words here and there so that the screen direction could be turned into narration.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work on an audio basis. The reason why is, what is your favorite action adventure novel, Manos? Yeah, exactly.
Hold on. I kind of have one.
Yeah?
It's probably Q squared from Star Trek.
That's actually really surprising because it's like actual intense action. Like people are fighting constantly and stuff.
Oh, well, no.
Okay.
I have written one.
All right. All right.
The novel I wrote, Davida, has a lot of intense action in it.
Okay, and see, it's one of those things for me. Action is a very physical, very visceral thing.
Yeah.
And I don't feel it communicates well in prose. Some people with really vivid imaginations can get into it. And maybe this is just me, so feel free to call me on it if you feel that way. But
I don't feel like
I don't feel.
Okay.
I feel like action really doesn't communicate well in prose, and I think it communicates even more poorly in audio.
Yeah.
You know, he ran across the room and shot his bow and leaped like an acrobat through the air. You know, he got the eggs out of the fridge and cracked them on the side of the pan and fucked with the egg for a minute because he couldn't get all the white stuff out of it. Like it's the same level of interest for me at least for me when I read and hear that. You know, I'm a big God of War fan, and I don't know why, but I downloaded a God of War audiobook, and it was action scene after action scene, and I'm like, this is so fucking boring.
I have to admit, I've written action scenes in script form for comics. I've written, like I just mentioned, like I wrote a novel which has a lot of action in it, and when I gotta tell you, when I sat down to write a novel with action in it, when I realized that how much was going to be in the book, I was really worried because generally the novels I read don't have action sequences in them. Mm-hmm. And matter of fact, when you asked me like what's my favorite action novel, I had to think for a minute. And granted, Q squared is my general answer, but there's not too much action in that. So it was probably the most daunting when I started working on it, but it was really exciting as I was working on it. Like once I got into it and realized how to do it, because that was the thing that took a while. Like it's the thing that held up my first novel like the most, was like, how the fuck am I gonna write a scene where these two guys beat up each other? I had to kind of figure that out. It's challenging, and I don't blame you at all if that's not your thing when you read it. I mean, that's completely, you know, that's generally how it, you know, how your reaction is to it, and that's fair. I have a similar feeling about radio drama. I feel like, you know, radio drama is kind of hard to get into, really. You can see why it's not as popular as it used to be. I mean, I guess the most popular thing with radio drama has been like the Doctor Who series of recent years. And that's, you know, part of the reason because, you know, Doctor Who's, you know, just so popular.
And they can bring back the old doctors and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and they can do whatever they want with it. And that's tricky because I've like heard some old Superman ones in the past, and they are hard to get into because you're hearing a guy tell you, and you're hearing like people go ah ooh ah ooh ah,
Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing. Is like it's really hard to walk a line. I think when you do audio drama well, you have to break the crutch and throw out the narrator.
Yeah.
I've never heard an audio drama that I liked that had a narrator. And if you're gonna have action in it, it's still possible to do it, but you have to make it discernible as if you were just watching a movie with your eyes closed. Is the way I feel about it.
Or it had really bad lighting.
Yeah. It's so for me, just watching this was a really bizarre experience because I'm just sitting there and I'm not gonna lie, I'm very kind of bored by how much of it's just description of action and stuff. What helped was the comic. The fact that someone had gone through and drawn all this and the art style of the show and all that stuff was really cool, and it made the action more bearable. But because it's paced to the events of the audio, I can read faster than they can talk.
Yes.
I can see the events happening on the page faster than they can talk. I'll say, as far as if the person that edited these two things together, if they want any advice, crop your images to the panel of what's happening in the audio.
Yes, thank you.
Would have eliminated that problem big time.
Yes.
Because like I'm all the way at the bottom of the page 30 seconds after you go to a new image. And I'm just waiting for the characters to talk.
I was thinking that when I was watching this too. Like, I think, yes, it's a great idea to use the comic with the audio drama. It was a bad idea just to put the page flat up there. And you're right. I was thinking, like, the second time I was watching this, I was thinking, man, it'd be really cool if, they just did like, a pan and scan type of action, pans and zooms, with the dialogue, and we had the special effects, so we could have not special effects, the sound effects that could have gone alongside, and we could have had a nice flow if they had done zooms on the individual panels. Yeah, I definitely thought of that too. You're not alone on that.
Yeah, and so that was just the disjointed side of things that made things kind of hard to get into for me. It also doesn't help that I didn't even know this was a show. So that part didn't really help going into it. So I've got no attachment to the characters, no investment in the story being paid off. That being said, I can easily imagine how people would have this. I was a huge fan of DC Bombshells while that was running, and luckily Margaret Bennett did get to end that series the way she wanted to, but because she had to condense her ending down to just a few issues when it was meant to be a much broader thing, it is really rushed, but I'm so glad I got an ending. But I've been in that situation where I'm like, man, this thing I really like just ended unceremoniously, and that's never going to get more of it. So I can understand the reasons that fans would appreciate it. I just don't have that context going into it, so I'm already lacking a little bit of investment. I will say, that being said, I will say that they do a really good job just giving you what the situation is, and I didn't feel lost. I understood what the struggle is, why they were doing what they were doing. I was a little unclear on some of the relationships and stuff, but that's to be expected. I felt I was never confused by the plot and the stakes, so I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with the fact that thankfully this was written by the showrunner. Had a pretty good understanding of how to write these episodes and how the characters kind of jive, and how the pacing works on this. So we have a big advantage of that rather than someone just trying to do their own. And I have, I used to watch this off and on as a kid. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Mm-hmm. But back then I watched every cartoon, almost like I do now that I think about it. And this would air on Saturday mornings, and Saturday mornings, oh man, I can't remember I can't remember the year this was on. This was late 80s. and it was usually on at like 11:30, so it was the last of the Saturday morning shows. So that was kind of my familiarity with it. Like, I'd be getting dressed and getting ready for the day and doing whatever on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of how I related to the show. Like, okay, this is the show. It's the last one. I got to get going. I can't screw around and do nothing. Because all the way up into my teens, I was doing nothing but watching Saturday morning shows. And it wasn't my favorite because I liked, this was a Marvel Sunbow show, and I really liked their the way they did shows. They were Transformers and Spider-Man. And the Hulk and Gem and G.I. Joe and stuff like that. And I thought they used to do a pretty good kind of show.
I mean, from the bits of animation I saw in this video, I was actually reasonably surprised. I expected the animation quality to be much, much worse. I was a little worried about Hanna-Barbera style animation or something.
No, Sunbow was better than Hanna-Barbera. Matter of fact, I mean, they had direct competition. Like, Hanna-Barbera was doing GoBots at the same time Sunbow and Marvel were doing Transformers. And, well, I mean, to me, that was like night and day different in quality.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like, this is one of those things where I didn't enjoy it, and I can definitely root a bunch of my reasons for not enjoying it in like specific things and choices that were made. That being said, it's something I can easily understand why people would like it. So let me ask you this: so as someone who did watch the show when it was airing and stuff, what did you think of this? Because we haven't really gotten around to your thoughts on the episode itself.
Oh yeah, See, like I said, I did off and on watch the show. They were pretty decently written teenage characters for like Saturday morning cartoons, which you can guess how bad they normally were in the 70s and 80s. So they had a bit of I mean, they're not as well written as like a modern show, but you can definitely tell some effort was put into it. And I remember the fantasy thing was not my it was not my cup of tea. But I occasionally did watch it, and I think this was actually a pretty fitting conclusion to the series. I think this would have been, if they had done this as an episode, I would have been pretty satisfied with it.
Okay. And just what are your thoughts on the episode itself?
The episode itself is, it actually does pull out some interesting surprises. I like the fact that the feelings of distrust towards the dungeon master were very prevalent. And I like the fact that it would have been the last episode. Like, oh man, we've gone through all these like struggles with this guy, and he was like, trying to do us in the entire time. The feeling of betrayal and confusion, I think, is pretty real, and I do like the twist, because it never would have occurred to me that Viger, I can't remember, Viger,
something like that. Yeah, I can't
remember. Yeah, was like the son turned evil of Dungeon Master, which does now kind of like make sense, in context with the rest of the series. Like, he was never really totally cool with killing the villain. So yeah, okay, that makes sense actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it was kind of interesting for me going into this, because, like, the character's just called Dungeon Master, and I know very little about D&D. Hey, I work at a dice company. I should probably know more, but I know very little about D&D, and so I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's what you call the guy that runs the D&D game, so that makes sense. And then, like, with the, about halfway through, when the quote-unquote bad guy is like, oh, so now Dungeon Master has finally revealed himself, and you see that things are not as simple as you thought they were, I was like, oh shit, are they actually going to go with it? I mean, in retrospect, it should be obvious. The guy's named Dungeon Master. That's not a good guy name. That's actually a really cool twist, and it's like, not really.
They could have totally gotten away with that. Especially, actually, I think this. I don't know if this was written as a. No, I think as a last episode, that would have been a really mind-blowing way to end the series, because that would not have been normally done in this context. So that would have been an impressive twist. I like the twist they do have, but you're right, it would have been a little bit more jarring.
Yeah.
Emotionally jarring.
I really thought that's what they were going to go for when he's all like, you see things are not as black and white as you thought they were. I'm like, oh, hey, there you go. That's actually a really clever campaign right there. The guy that you thought was a benevolent god is actually evil, and the guy that he's been sending you on missions to kill is the good guy. I could go for that, but they end up going down a different road, and it works fine too. So I don't know, that was kind of cool. One thing I kind of liked is so I don't know a ton about D&D, but I hang out with a lot of people who play it, so I know I've kind of gained knowledge through osmosis.
Yeah.
And so some things I do like is the way they set themselves up, that you have, the party separated and at odds for goals. I thought that was actually a really cool idea, and so I kind of just tried to put myself in the shoes of okay, if this were me playing this campaign, that would be a really interesting thing if my party just divided itself, and we're now at odds, but still headed toward the same goal. I thought that was a really, really cool idea, and it fits, it does a really good job of integrating itself really well with the kind of storytelling you can do with D&D. I thought that was a really cool way. It's hey, so, it's not just all, okay, you're in a dungeon and you have to fight a dragon. There's actual things that you can do, unique to storytelling in this world that really don't work in any other medium. So yeah. I thought that was kind of a cool way to kind of show that off.
I agree. And now that I think about it, doing this as a radio play almost does have a D&D kind of game quality to it. Because a lot of times, when you got a good D&D game going on, you're essentially listening to a lot of the dungeon master is going through the story, and you're reacting and talking. And kind of building a story within your minds as you're talking. So yeah, I think doing it this way is kind of oddly fitting.
Yeah, I was really, really impressed by some of that stuff, and I thought it was just kind of cool. This is one of those things. D&D is becoming more and more popular. Believe me, I know. I send out $30,000 dice orders on a just average day. So people are buying these things like crazy and playing these RPGs and stuff, and D&D being kind of one of the biggest. It occurs to me that something like this really there's probably an appetite for something like this to come back. A bunch of people that I work with are gamers too, and I've sat there and I've watched them on breaks, watch a video talking about here's tips for how to be a better DM and what to have your characters do. Hey, make your world feel more real. If one of your players decides to be really snooty to a royal person because they're not taking the game seriously enough and they're just mouthing off, have that have consequences. I'm oh, that's actually a really cool point. You can kind of see it. So as the interest builds in the RPG community, I could see something like this coming back, and for its faults, this is a cool presentation of kind of things we could get more of. And I know I've seen I know people upload their D&D nights or their D&D gatherings, whatever you want to call them, to YouTube, and I've seen some people like animate sections of them and stuff. So it's gaining steam. This really could be something on its way for a revival.
True. Although there's been like one Dungeons and Dragons film since this episode, and of course that was not popular, not even with fans. And there's something, I don't know.
Since the episode or since the series?
There's been a movie based on Dungeons and Dragons since this TV series. It's not the same characters. I wanted to make sure about that, because I'm like, wait. Yeah. Because the only D&D movie I'm aware of. Yeah, they have not revisited these specific characters since then. I think adapting like the world of Dungeons and Dragons or any RPG game is tricky, because it is kind of a different breed of cat.
It's a different style of storytelling.
Correct. It's communal, it's personal, it's right there and intimate, where I don't know how successful like a filmmaker or TV showrunner or even a comic artist can copy that or relive that for people, because that's, I don't know, it's quite a different thing.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like this factor of the unknown going into it. That's the whole point of rolling the dice and stuff. There's a comic out right now that's kind of interesting. And if I get the premise wrong, I'm sorry, but I've heard people talk about it. I believe it's called Rolled and Told. And it's just a comic that the person is writing, but they're writing it as if it is a campaign they're actually working on. And so, you as a writer can imagine, okay, I'm going to put my character in this scenario, and I'm going to have them do a thing. Okay, but what if I take some of that control away from you, and instead of them getting to beat the villain in the way you want, you roll a dice to see how they're going to be able to do it, or if they're going to be able to do it. And you can kind of imagine the different style of storytelling that necessitates, and that creates. So like there's a cool subset to it, and this doesn't really touch on everything. Obviously, there's no luck involved in this. The story was fated to end this way no matter what, in a pretty traditional style of how television and storytelling like that works. But there is an appetite for that kind of stuff out there. It's gaining a lot of steam, and so this just kind of I understand why people would like this little revisit for the revival of the series, and it's kind of cool. You can kind of see why the appetite's out there for it, and kind of hope for things in the future for the fan bases.
Correct. I think the World of Warcraft film had the same problem. Is like, what do you take out of this universe where you can come at it at so many different angles. There's so many things in it. You
take the most generic story you could ever imagine, and you just put it on screen with a bunch of CGI Tusk people.
Correct.
That's what you take.
And that's the exact problem. It's like, how do you, like, I don't know if you can do a movie or even a series of movies based on a property like this. A TV series, or even like an interconnected universe like the CW, DC shows, for instance, might have a better hand at it. Like if you do like 4 or 5 TV shows, the Star Trek shows in the 90s, where you can kind of get at different angles of those universes. It's just, the problem is like people, I don't know if I should even attempt to speak for fans of these things. But the fans kind of like build a particular thing in their mind, and it's very personal, and just doing something based on one of these properties is just tricky to do. Even though I feel like, there are people who grew up with this cartoon. I'm sure there are people who saw this first and then got into D&D because of it. So, they do have like feelings towards these characters in this universe. So that oddly enough, that might be able to be revisited in that way. But at least it's nice that there is kind of like, you can, I don't know if you could call this a canon ending, because the showrunner wrote the script, so I feel like it's kind of a canon ending for the show.
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely would consider it that. I mean, it's really cool that they're able to give the conclusion, and it's still, what I like about the conclusion of it is it's still open-ended. Like, it's at that point, it's the choice. Do they go back, or do they continue to explore the realm, as it were? I thought that was really cool. That was a fun idea to leave it open-ended like that. And they what's nice about that is, even though this is the canon ending of the series, if there is if there are fans out there that like to play these versions of the characters like going on, this doesn't interrupt that for them. It takes a villain off the board, but that's not too bad, honestly. So this can be a canon ending for the series without destroying the lore of the game itself. That I doubt there are many people who play it based solely off of these characters. But who knows? I mean, it might just be really into these characters for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a neat little thing. It's a rare opportunity to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. A thing I played Dungeons and Dragons for about 4 or 5 matches, or meetings, whatever you want to call them, with my backyard neighbor in middle school, and he was being a real dick to me as a DM, so I stopped.
I almost played a game with this dude who seemed cool, but I don't know. I was really not interested in the whole thing. When I was a teenager, I played Card Wars with some friends, which was kind of a Mad Max role-playing game, which was fun, and it was with my friends. But I was like, did that in 1986. Haven't really done it since then. So
don't go dust off your character sheet, man. I swear we're coming back.
Not quite the fan.
No, it's cool. It's one of those things that everyone has their thing. People, buy dice from Cheswick so I can continue to have a job. That's gonna be my plug for my company.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, look, people think the stuff I like is stupid, so I am no position to judge anybody on their fandom, and I really do like the communal storytelling aspect of RPGing. So, and the times I've tried it, I had fun. It's just I don't have time for it, and it's just not my thing.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go on to ratings for this thing. It's weird, we didn't talk so much about the episode itself, but I feel like, this just one of those things where it's more just general opinions about it, and then general opinions about what it's doing.
Yeah.
There's more to talk about around it than there is with the meat of it, so I'll go ahead and go first. I said I didn't really care for this, but not because I thought it was like actively bad. There were certainly decisions I didn't agree with it. From a formatting standpoint. So for that, I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5. I thought it was pretty average overall. 2.5 out of 5 clubs.
I think I liked it a little bit better than you, although, the format doesn't really excite me too much. And I do wish that they had used kind of like a pan and zoom method of storytelling with the art, which was very beautiful. And it's nice that I was able to watch like an ending, even a canon type ending with you had a lot of cool resources like getting some of the voice actors back. So it was a pretty decent presentation. I would probably give it 3.5 Saturday afternoons.
Nice. Alrighty. Well, Manos will be going a little more traditional next time, though it will be animated. We're going to talk about Dalek Tales, The Experiment, full episode by Lee Adams. This is, of course, a Doctor Who fan series. He's been releasing this over the last, I want to say, 2 to 3 years, and he finally finished it up just back at the end of March and edited it all together into one 17-minute fan film. So, yeah. So I'm excited for that. Until then, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Realist.
And we are your geeky gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.